why don't we start with the Trevor Austin Days at Rose Hill quiz? So if you know the answers, shout them out. It helps if you work with Dad, otherwise, have a go. So, what happened every day at Rose Hill at 10:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon?
Coffee.
Tea, that's it, or coffee. A question for Lyndon. How was it stirred? Clockwise, thank you very much. Or sometimes anti-clockwise, thank you. So the phone rings at the shop, my father picks it up, and he answers with Rose Hill. That's not bad, it's very good. So if he calls you, be ready for it now, he would say, greetings from sunny Beaconsfield. So you have to be in the shop to know this one, but as he would burst through the front door of the shop, the bell would go off, customers would jump, and he would say, very good. So I'll give you a slightly more complicated one. You've asked him to do something, you know he's going to completely ignore you. He will say, I hear what you say, I know what you say. So was he good with computers? No. Did he ever learn to send an attachment? No. Dad's working environment, for those who saw it, I'm sure many of you did, his desk, piled high with papers. We're talking 12 to 14 inches high, all round desk. Probably there you find some checks that should have been paid in 3 months ago, old phone books behind his head, and definitely his red contacts diary, remember that, with all your names and numbers filled in ink pen, importantly. You could recognise him striding up the high street, shoulders back, arms swinging, parade ground style. Usually with a hat, definitely a suit, and if you were going somewhere important, a guard's tie. The business started in 26 Waterton Road, very close here. We're going back some time to the 60s, but did anybody actually visit there as a friend or customer in that time?
Yes.
Was it quite old? You've done it yourselves. So, same sort of environment. He had the desk, piles of paper. There'd be probably a technician somewhere doing some work. There'd be Peter Wilson for a while running the British Grounds from the loft space, would you believe? Instruments everywhere. I just grew up assuming all houses were full of instruments. Apparently not. Customers everywhere. It was chaos but fun. And eventually, I think my mother said, as did the neighbours, it's time to find somewhere for the shop to be. So the Old Town Tea Rooms became available for sale where we are now. And somehow my father managed to purchase the building. And in 1975, on the 10th of May, the shop was opened by Roy Castle. He had his famous Alpine horn. We remember the Alpine horn? He aimed it at the shop door, blew a blast, the door flew open, and began 50 years of music in Beaconsfield. You can't develop or build a business like that without energy, and Dad had a lot of energy. 6 days a week, travelling the country, working in the shop during the day. In the evening, he'd visit band runs, just working all the time and enjoying it. There'd be trade shows and exhibitions. There was one that he always used to like telling me about at the Free Trade Hall in Manchester. The exhibition for the brass traders was on the second floor, but the lift was out. So they all got there and realised they'd have to go up 4 flights of stairs. So he got his trombone and the euphonium, caught it under each arm, flew up the stairs, flew down again. The only person who overtook him was Adrian Parker, who some of you will know was an Olympic gold medal athlete. He loved his customers, they loved him. He liked to know where they come from, who they were playing with, what they were doing, pick up all the news. And he loved to give advice, which he could do very well for music. You just had to be a little careful that you didn't go in, maybe to buy a mouthpiece, and find it walked out with a trombone. Today, When we want to deliver something, we just use DPD. Back then, Dad just used to ask the customers where they came from. And if they're foolish enough to say, well, I've come from Birmingham, he said, oh, I got a tube loop to deliver on the way home. It's only in Swindon. And they said, of course, because it's driven. His musical training was in the Royal Horse Guards. He was there for 5 years. And that's where his skills came from. They just played a lot every day. Eventually, he played so much that to keep himself amused, he and his companion just turned the music upside down and played it back to front. He also played in the High Wycombe Stowage Lolly Band for, I think, some 36 years. I'm sure many of us have been conducted by my father at some point. There must be almost everybody here. Everyone been conducted by my father? Must be most of us. Well, he's a very experienced conductor, but later on, his style became quite relaxed, as you probably observed. Instead of a nice clear counter, sometimes he would just say, going, and wave a stick in the air, and it all just began. In his retirement years, he came into the shop and worked with us maybe a couple of days a week, just sometimes a few hours on a day. Answering the phone, delighting everyone with Rose Hill, which you almost know. And he liked to keep up to date with the stories, what's going on in the banding world. I did have to listen out because sometimes he would talk to customers and I just knew he was quoting them from his 1978 price list. I said, Dad, are you phoning? It's £8,000, not £2,000. He said, really? Well, I never. But working with my father was an absolute privilege. We got on very well together, we laughed a lot together. He's left us a great legacy in business and in music, as we see here. I hope that we will all remember him for his humour, but also his decency, his love, his grace and kindness. And if you see any of those qualities when you meet my brother and me, we just hope, well, we certainly take it as a great compliment, because we just know that we're living a good life.